Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're diving into a headline that's been making some serious waves in the business world. Why Tractor Supply is closing 75 stores. Right off the bat, a massive retailer announcing a wave of store closures? That sounds like a total disaster, doesn't it? It sounds alarming. But as we're going to see today, there is a much deeper story hidden just beneath the surface here. We're going beyond the headline to unpack the real forces driving this decision and taking a look at a retail shift that, honestly, almost nobody saw coming. 75. That is the number that caught everyone's attention. Tractor Supply recently announced plans to close 75 of its locations. But let's be clear about exactly what they're shutting down. It's 75 underperforming locations of a specific brand they own called Petsense. Now, when you hear a number that high, your immediate reaction is probably panic. You start wondering, oh man, is the company in trouble? Is the local economy taking a massive hit? But we really need to pause and ask ourselves what this number actually represents in the grand scheme of their entire operation. And that brings us to a really core question for us to think about. Is this a full-blown retail crisis, or is it actually a highly calculated strategic move? It is just so easy to assume that store closures automatically equal failure. But the reality? Shrinking a physical footprint doesn't always mean you're losing. Sometimes, closing the doors on certain locations is actually part of a much larger, frankly much smarter strategy. So is this the beginning of a larger retail meltdown, or a pivot that could actually make Tractor Supply stronger than ever? Well, the answer to that, we first need to look at exactly who we're dealing with. Section 1. Who is Tractor Supply, the rural retail giant? We generally think of Tractor Supply as this incredible retail success story. They were founded way back in 1938, and their winning strategy from day one has always been, well, staying out of crowded downtowns and those sprawling suburban malls. Instead, they intentionally focused on dominating rural America. They built an absolute powerhouse of a business serving farmers, ranchers, and millions of loyal customers who live way outside those major metropolitan bubbles. Their highly specialized product mix is exactly what cemented their massive expansion across the U.S. We're talking animal feed, heavy-duty farming equipment, lawn and garden supplies, rugged workwear, and, of course, pet products. You literally couldn't find this kind of inventory at your standard big-box small store. They knew their niche perfectly, and they absolutely dominated it. But where does a 75-store closure fit into all of this? Well, it all circles back to that very last category: pet products. And that brings us to Petsense. This is their smaller specialty retail chain that's hyper-focused on pet food, grooming, supplies, and veterinary services, specifically located in small and mid-sized communities. Now, Tractor Supply originally acquired Petsense because they wanted to strengthen their overall strategy, right? They saw this booming pet care market, and naturally, they wanted a bigger piece of the pie. But here's the catch. If the pet care market is growing so fast, why on earth are they closing 75 of these exact stores? Section 2. The efficiency strategy, pruning for profitability. Okay, so retail is shifting incredibly fast right now, and it's being driven by two massive headwinds: rising operating costs and some seriously intense omni-channel competition. Operating a physical storefront is getting exponentially more expensive by the minute, while at the very same time, consumers are shifting way more of their everyday spending online. So in a climate where profit margins are being heavily squeezed like this, Tractor Supply looked at the math and realized they simply couldn't afford to carry the dead weight of 75 underperforming Petsense locations anymore. This highlights a massive, massive shift in corporate mindset. Think about the old retail model. It prioritized physical expansion above literally everything else. The ultimate goal was planting a flag on every possible street corner and just spreading resources everywhere. But new retail, it is ruthless about efficiency. Closing these stores isn't about shrinking at all. It's about freeing up that trapped capital so they can reinvest it directly into their top-performing locations. For Tractor Supply, this move is all about transforming into a leaner, highly optimized machine. Section 3. The bigger retail shift, the evolution of shopping. It's really vital to understand that Tractor Supply is absolutely not some outlier making these tough calls alone. Over the past several years, retailers across pretty much every industry have been actively forced to reevaluate their physical footprints. We've seen massive remodels, strategic closures left and right, and some extremely heavy digital investments. Because the challenge isn't just about stocking products on a physical shelf anymore. It's about finding this incredibly delicate, seamless balance between the traditional physical store and modern digital convenience. And that's because our expectations as consumers have completely evolved. Let's be honest, we demand faster delivery, we want seamless online ordering, we absolutely expect to be able to buy online and pick it up in store, and we want flawless inventory accuracy so we never ever face an empty shelf. Efficiency in meeting those specific demands actually matters significantly more now than simply holding a massive portfolio of real estate. Companies that fail to adapt to this, they risk falling behind completely. Section 4, what happens next? The on-the-ground impact. Now, these closures definitely trigger some massive ripple effects. For local customers who happen to live near an affected Petsense, it means longer travel times for pet supplies or grooming services, which is probably going to push a lot of them to shift their loyalty to online competitors or other local pet chains. And most critically, the displaced employees are the ones bearing the immediate, harsh reality of this corporate pivot right in their local communities. But if you look at it from a broader corporate strategy perspective, Tractor Supply views this as a totally necessary extraction of capital. They need those funds to fuel their core business growth and really lock down their long-term market position. But the ultimate unknown here is, will this digital and efficiency pivot actually work? If Tractor Supply successfully reallocates those resources to their stronger locations, and if they effectively expand their digital capabilities to meet what modern buyers actually want, these 75 closures could absolutely supercharge their long-term profitability. However, if customer demand shifts faster than they anticipate, well, the company's going to have to just keep adapting on the fly. I think this shift perfectly captures the whole new era of commerce we're living in. As our source material points out so well, success is no longer measured by the number of stores. It's measured by how efficiently those stores serve customers. We've got to stop viewing sheer real estate volume as the primary metric of a retailer's health. It is literally all about efficiency now, and companies are being forced to make incredibly difficult decisions just to stay competitive in a marketplace that is changing by the second. So as we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with one final thought. We started with a headline that sounded, honestly, like a disaster. But by digging just a little bit deeper, we uncovered this fascinating story of retail evolution, digital transformation, and strategic efficiency. Whether this becomes a brilliant turning point for Tractor Supply, or simply another chapter in the very bumpy transformation of American retail, well, only time will tell. But I'm curious, what do you think? Are these 75 closures a smart, highly calculated business decision, or is this a flashing red warning sign for the wider retail industry? It is going to be a fascinating shift to watch. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning those headlines.